Hey guys, welcome back to Cyberspace Investigations. This year has been a drought for non-first party games. Sure, there's been a few like Doom Eternal and Final Fantasy VII Remake, but in terms of the bulk of games being put out this year, Sony and Nintendo have been doing all of the heavy lifting. And one of those best games this year, and one of the best PlayStation 4 games of all time, is Ghost of Tsushima.
The developer of Ghost is Sucker Punch. They had made Sly Cooper, at least the first 3 games, and the 3 Infamous games. After Infamous Second Son was released alongside the PlayStation 4, Sucker Punch would hunker down for nearly the entire lifespan of the PS4 to create their next project. But before that, they made some DLC for Second Son with one of the side characters as the protagonist. It was pretty small, and not much traction was gained from it. With that out of the way, Sucker Punch set to work on Ghost of Tsushima. Many years later, on October 30th, 2017, Ghost of Tsushima was finally revealed to the public. Since that point, the marketing had been low, until this year, the year of its release, when showcasing the game became a large priority for Sony. Since this was a new IP, Sony and Sucker Punch weren't thinking it would do all too well, but to their surprise, it was a smash hit. In summer 2020, the game finally released, and now that I've beaten it, I think it's time to look at what the game did. So let's tackle the visuals first. This has got to be one of the most beautiful PS4 games out there. With its realistic characters, detailed massive world, and fluid animations, you really feel like you're in the world. The load times are astonishing. For a game as visually detailed and as large as this, fast traveling should take a bit of time, but no, it's barely 5 seconds before you're back and ready to go slice some more heads off. The UI design is extremely stunning as well. With its minimalistic take, most of the time the screen will be almost completely UI-free, save for combat, where parts of the screen will appear and disappear as you open side menus accordingly. That doesn't exactly sound complicated or unique, but when playing the game it's a breath of fresh air compared to even most other PlayStation exclusives. The way the UI works, and the combat control scheme in general, is very complex, while also being intuitive. Let's get into gameplay. This is a samurai game, and with that comes many stances and forms with the basic sword. There are 4 here, being the stone stance, water stance, wind stance, and moon stance. Each stance is effective against a certain type of enemy. Well, this means that in terms of enemy types, there are only a few, mostly tied to a stance. On paper, this may seem really basic, but like with the UI, it gets much more complicated than it initially seems. When facing one easy, it's pick the stance and go wild, but when multiple enemies show up, which can sometimes be upwards of 10, switching stances becomes a frantic dance along with blocking, dodging, and parrying. Along with this, many unlockable abilities come in through story progression or optional side quests. These add to the depth, becoming abilities not tied to a specific stance, something that very much helps in the later third of the game. For the sword swings itself, it's just light attacks and heavy attacks, with some combos being thrown in there as well. This makes for an incredibly dynamic fighting system, and something I could have played for many more hours. But that's only half of the battle system. The main gimmick of Ghost compared to other samurai games is its stealth, bow, and assassination mechanics. When the sun goes down, or whenever you feel like it, you can crouch and hide in bushes and grass to evade enemies and assassinate them. To do this, there's just the knife you use, as well as the many side abilities like smoke bombs, poison darts, and chimes. This combines with the bow and arrow to pick off more people and create hysteria within the enemy ranks. Almost every ability is upgradable in some way. Over the course of the game, you'll get just enough skill points to max out a very large skill tree. These can range from new abilities to simply adding more of the ability that was already there. That all combines to make an amazingly diverse combat system that never bores, because there are only some instances where stealth is required, and even then, the sections are short and let you get back to the action quickly. Some of the mechanics are so well implemented that you can use some stealth abilities while trying to kill people the normal way. But the most interesting part of the whole system is the impact it has on the story. The conflict with the main characters that happens because of the game mechanics really makes the difference.
We'll get to the story eventually, but right now, let's talk about what there is to do in the world. This is an open world game, so unless there's stuff to do, this world is going to feel completely empty and lifeless.
The world here is filled to the brim with absolutely everything to do. Enemy camps, roving bands to fight, some people kidnapped by Mongols to be rescued and tell you of another encampment to fight. A large selection of side quests rounds out the more structured content, filling the island with so much character. Even though it's grounded in reality, some elements of Ghost are sort of mythical. Some settings for duels are definitely unique in a fictional sort of way, and some of the theming of the world seems kind of mythical as well. But what is there to do besides the combat-based encounters? There's a variety of stuff, from following foxes to platforming challenges that feel ripped straight from Uncharted. Following foxes to shrines upgrades and expands your charm slots, and unlocks new ones throughout the adventure. You can also pet them. Thank God! The platforming challenges come in the form of Shinto shrines found across the island. These are mini puzzles, with the landscape being the puzzle. Finding the right way across is the goal, and with so many varied versions of it, from scaling peaks and descending cliffs on the coast to more horizontal-based platforming challenges, these have got to be the best thing to do other than fight. There are a bunch of collectibles scattered around the island, all of which are tied to the culture of the island. Some are Mongol artifacts, specifically records of their attacks and orders from Koden Khan to his commanders. It certainly builds up the enemy as formidable, that's for sure.
So let's jump into the story next. If you want to skip spoilers, head to the time code on screen.
So this is a story about the Mongol invasion of Japan, specifically the failed invasion of Tsushima, as you might have guessed by the title of the game and some of the content so far. The game opens with the Mongols' first assault. Nearly everyone dies. I say nearly because our main protagonist, Jin Sakai, is still alive. He's the last Sakai left alive, not because of the attack. His family was prestigious and tied to Clan Shimura, as Jin was Lord Shimura, the Jito of the island's nephew. He was rescued, and with only 2 samurai left alive, him and Lord Shimura, and also that Shimura is captured by Koden Khan and his army, it's up to Jin to save the island himself and rescue his uncle. To do this, he has to use tactics deemed dishonorable by the samurai. Jin himself actually grapples with this a lot, and that's what I meant when I said the gameplay mechanics tied into Jin's own personal story. He struggles a lot with the problems of breaking the code of his clan. Koden Khan, the main villain, knows this weakness of Jin and exploits it. Koden Khan is a master of manipulation, turning Ryozu against Jin for more money or supplies, and the taunting Koden Khan does on Lord Shimura when he is captured, especially when the Mongols execute one of the main characters, Taka, by cutting his head off. Jesus Christ! Later down the line, when Lord Shimura is captured, Jin is exiled for using poison on the Mongols. At this point, Jin has accepted what he has become, and even though he wanted things to go back to the way they were before the Mongol invasion, afterwards, it could never be the same. The Shogun ordered Lord Shimura to kill Jin, and that's the final boss. It's an amazing end after the lackluster semi-final boss with Koden Khan. The ending, though, it actually made me really sad. I won't spoil the very end, but it's something I was not expecting.
So, what's the verdict on the final PlayStation 4 exclusive? I think this was the best way the system could have gone out. While it has gotten Sackboy and Spider-Man Miles Morales past this point, this was the true last PS4 exclusive, and I think that this is the best way that any system could have ended. Everything about this game is phenomenal. The story, the characters, the world, the combat, the traveling gameplay, everything just amalgamates into this perfect swan song for the PlayStation 4. Well, that's all I've got for this one. So see you the rest of the week for more great programs.